Hi, I'm Sean, and you're watching the channel Shopworx. Today, me and John are going to be working on this Wolverine X4. Water pump went on it there. He's got a whopping 650k on it. Unfortunately, warranty won't cover it because it is over the 1 year or 6 months or whatever it was. So it's a no-go. So we gotta rip it apart. Anyway, it's going to be interesting. Couldn't find too much online on these yet. It's got the Yamaha 850 in it with the twin, so we'll tear into it, and you guys can watch along and hopefully help somebody out down the road here. So let's get at her. So I already started, actually a while ago there. This has been down for quite a bit since last year. So I started looking around last year there, pulled all the 5 push pins, 2 on each side, 1 in the center out. And then underneath there you've got your V-twin. Nice thing about this, it's got a roof, so that's where we're putting the parts. So from what I understand, I'm going to have to pull, I'm not sure on this seat, but I'll pull this seat for sure, take out the floorboards here, possibly the center hump. While we're in it, we'll probably put in a block heater like I did on mine down on the coolant line there. And as far as I know, this should be the side with the oil pump in it. So I'm going to be going into it a little blind, but I do have a service manual on a computer. It's a good thing, I guess. Bad thing is, power supply went on it while we were working up north there, so I have to find another computer with it on it, or winger by ear. So anywho, let's get tearing into this. Let's pull these seats out and get the oil and antifreeze drain in here. A little more room. All your silk there. Mm-hmm. All your silk. See, it's been a while since I pulled my pan out here. I can quickly throw the vacuum cleaner in it. Why don't you do that? Realistically, I think all I gotta get out of here is this top here. Do it. And that should be it. I'll get a 10 mil and a flat blade, and I'll let you clean that out. Bit that is out of the drawer on the toolbox. So I need to pull that off, makes it a lot easier. Close the door? Yeah. Maybe. If there's a Torx with the hole in the center. I was thinking there's a blue box I had floating around somewhere. This one right here. Try it and go. Outside the hinges off the outside on the pipe. Roll bar. On the Allen key. You do know where your wash heater is, eh? No. Time to do it while I got the antifreeze out. Fuel tank. Oh, no, we're getting somewhere here. Plug back here. Didn't have all the plastic on there and had some mesh sides, eh? Think how much weight you could lose on one of these. Pull these other bolts right here then. There's some bolts there. There's a couple bolts. I didn't think they connect to it. I think they're the ones that I pull when I do the oil changes there. Well, it looks like we might be pulling the fuel tank too. So what we have here is a little more accessible. Try to probably wash this off a little bit before we get pulling actual engine parts, engine components. I've got to bolt here and a bolt down there for the seat support or floorboard support here. Pull that out and pull crankcase back in and around here. Needs to get split and come apart. I believe the water pump's back inside here. So looks like we're gonna have to yard this fuel tank out of here and associated hardware and turn it some more. How do you feel about pulling the center hump on here, John? The center hump here, I think we're gonna have to pull it. Maybe. I gotta pull this passenger floorboard to get this fuel tank out anyway. Oh, I had this out. Just pull it back a bit. Make it a little easier to tear the rest of that out now. Okay, so we've ripped a little more out than I was hoping to. Ended up taking the center console out of it there. Just a bunch of push pins, that came out fairly easy. By getting the passenger side floorboard out, that was a little bit more fun. On top of the regular bolts and push pins you needed there, had to pop all the ones on top of the dash here and underneath on both sides to gain enough clearance and pull the grab bar out. So what we're going to do now is push it outside and try to wash some of this mud and stuff off here before we tear into anything that's too mission critical here. I want to split the fuel lines and whatnot and pull the tanks out of the way and clean out what I can and wash the engine off and etc. Do the best with what we got here. So fortunately pressure washer's not going to be able to get dug out here right now, so we'll push her out, hose it off, and probably let her dry overnight and get back at her tomorrow. Okay, I'm gonna have to drain that antifreeze from the bottom. This little piece on the pipe underneath the driver's side floorboard there. I believe it's an 8mm. We'll get that going and drain the oil. Oh, it's buzzing my face. We've got the rad cap already loosened off there so it drains easy. Normally you wouldn't have it draining like that off the bat like this, but trying to keep it from leaking out through the water pump. Well, we'll get that oil draining out of the sump here, and just got to do the engine after. Looks like the antifreeze is done draining already. We'll let those go and start tearing the fuel tank off. Well, looking at this, looks like I'm going to have to pull these bolts here for that bracket. Here's bolts for this bracket, and the bolts that hold the tank down here. It looks like 3 of them that I can see. And unclip the lines, and we should be able to lift this right out. Well, best of my knowledge, fuel tank is unhooked. Nowhere close to empty by any means, but can't wrangle it out. There's that bushing. I guess taking a closer look at this here now. I have to separate this case around it, take the thermostat, or actually the water pump here out of it. Loosen all the lines off for that, probably pull that. You can see what the impeller looks like there. I'm going to have to pull it to change the impeller anyway. Disconnect the hoses going up. If we can find the block heater, we'll put the block heater in that one. And try to get it all back together. It's fun with COVID here. They're blaming that for all their parts availability issues. So everything else showed up, but one lousy little metric O-ring. So I'm kind of hoping the guy can pull this apart there and source one locally in town. We got pretty good seal shop in town there, does O-rings and oil field seals and all kinds of stuff. You name it, they can pretty much find it for you. Only problem is minimum billing. So, you know, in my case, when I need an O-ring, I usually walk out with like 15 of them. Make a $5 minimum billing. So, tear into it here, I guess, and keep going. Get some of these hoses off here, and then I'm going to take a break and see if I can't dig up a manual there. Just to make sure the stator, I believe, is inside here as well, so do not want to bugger anything up there, so I'll be reading up on that a little bit here. Let's not break any stuff here that we don't need to fix. Paper towel stick in there, make sure nothing gets in it. Was going to leave this filter on just to keep dirt and dust out, but I need to get to that connector down there, so probably spin it off, drain it, and put it back on here in a minute. No, I think they're on the chair over here or something, a little tool. Filter on for now, just keep the dust out. Okay, want to grab a fire off or two? So those are your oil drain bolts, so I just wanted to keep them separate. One tire up and hold these all up here. Just keep it all up out of the way. Now we have pretty much free access. It's at least as good as it's going to get to all the bolts. I have to do a little reading now. Make sure I don't screw anything up pulling it apart. Okay, after checking my book, I'm supposed to pull the bolts on the water pump here and get them out of the way. I'd like to mention I removed the wires for the stator here too. I don't think I have to pull the stator from the looks of things, but I will have to pull the grommet there and reseal around the case, and I believe the paper gasket goes on the back side, so I figured easier to pull it apart now instead of later. Let's pull this apart and we'll keep track of the bolts, keep these bolts separate from these bolts, and life should be good. Okay, got the 5 bolts loose. Let's pull this off now. And let's see what we're looking at here. The gasket for it. Good steel impellered water pump. So it is a steel one. Different parts, keep track of the bolts, they're all different sizes, except for 2 of them. Okay. Let's see if I can pull this clip here, maybe if I can get my hands wrapped around it. Just the drain for the seal. That's the hose the antifreeze is leaking out of and drains out of the space in between the 2 seals there, so it doesn't go back into the crankcase oil. Now, they say when they're pulling this, you're supposed to quarter turn on these bolts and work in a crisscross pattern, kind of like you'd be pulling lug nuts on a car. So get them all loose here in a oddball pattern, and well, it looks like the longer bolts actually hold the crankcase cover on there on the water pump. This one, and that one, just for future thought. That's loose. This one's not. That first one I cranked out by hand. The bolt looks a little different, so I put that off to the side there. So just remember that for putting it back together. Read somewhere that guys shouldn't reuse it, but I don't see what the difference is between it and the other ones are, to be honest. I think it's probably just a little bit of Loctite on it, from the looks of things. Had some white thread sealer on it, or Loctite. So have another peek at that a little later on and see why I can't reuse it. I'll pull one more bolt and we'll just compare them. So, sure, Yamaha has some reason to sell you another $10 bolt. Seems like that's the name of the game with all the power sports companies. Okay, here's the 2 bolts. They say not to reuse this one. I can't see why not. I don't think it's got any special characteristics. It's only torqued, I think, to 7.4 foot-pounds, so I can't see it being torque to yield. The only thing I can see different is it's got white Loctite on it, or thread sealant. So we'll probably put some of that back on there and put it back together with it. That, and I don't have a spare one of those bolts, so never knew I needed to order one. Well, let's see if we can get this apart. Nope. Give it a little tap-tap-a-roo. Here's the change in the case, it's starting to come. Stator's just sucking it in like crazy here. The magnet's just biting. Okay, so it comes with the case. Their drag's a little wonky in there, so good thing I did pull the wires. See the inside here, so what we're going to be working with. I believe the oil pump back in here drives the shaft here, which is the water pump. And we're having the problem with the antifreeze leaking out. And this oil does definitely not look very good here. Looks like it's got some antifreeze in it down in the bottom, so this might be a flush out job after. Fire it up and run her for a few minutes and dump her again. Which is odd considering the rest of this here I didn't see any oil contamination signs draining the actual case itself, nor the reservoir, so we will see. Okay, so I've sent John in to get some gasket cleaner. I guess it dissolves this paper gasket. A buddy of mine was telling me about it and used it on his Viking there when his went here about the same time as this one. And when he's going in, I just don't want to bugger any of this aluminum surface here. There's not a whole lot of meat on it. It's less than a 1/4 inch thick to seal, so don't want to go with that. But you can see here this lovely greeny emulsion. It's the only I can see. I'm surprised the oil pans weren't full of it. So it must have been just leaking through under pressure there before we popped the rad cap on it. And it's cooled down in the bottom here. So even these other bolts, I'm not sure if you guys can see it or not. This is nice clean oil up here. No issues whatsoever in it. It's still got the ready Yamaha color, and this other stuff here just below it. So I'm gonna clean that off and chalk it up. Well, even here, this is clean oil right in there in the timing cover, crankshaft part. So see what I'm saying? I think it's just got to have been sitting with a little bit of antifreeze in the bottom there. I don't think it'll be a big issue, but something we'll keep an eye on here anyway, and decide whether we're going to flush her out. I already cleaned the inside of the case out there. It didn't take much. A little bit of brake clean came right out the bottom of the drain on the oil pan. So we'll clean this up and wait for John to come back from stripper. Dry. Alright, so John went out and got some gasket remover. Supposed to spray it on, let it sit for 5-10 minutes and scrape it off. I wanted to go with that on this gasket. Thin surface sealing area there, so I'm going to spray it on the paper towel there and apply it with that instead of spraying it directly in the crankcase there. Don't want it all over everything. And we'll do the same probably to the outside one, except shouldn't have to worry as much other than on the stator there. Don't want it on there. So it's like thin shaving cream. Hence why I'm wearing gloves. If I remember right, shouldn't take too much of this stuff here. it soak for a bit and come back and try it. Maybe apply it once more after it sits for a little. Okay, I got it off. I got it off. My glove got caught in there. Huh? So I got it off, and somehow my glove got caught in there. That's probably where the O-ring is. Oh, we'd be using the new impeller. Right there. You have a good groove in there, eh? Yeah. Well, change the bearing, change it all. I'm not sure if you guys out there in YouTube land can see that or not, where it's wore on there. It's actually got a fairly, even stops my nail inside the glove here from going over it. Good groove. I don't know if it burnt the seal or what the deal is there. Or thing only has like 650k on it, so 680. So I'm not overly impressed with that end of things. 1500 or almost 2000 probably on mine. Can't remember. I know I'm over 15 anyway.
Comes off pretty easy.
Put some on here.
There.
You want to drive the bearing and stuff out first?
Yeah.
You want you do that?
I gotta figure out how to do it.
As far as I'm concerned, we'll put a new bearing in, put a new seal in it, and whatever other parts here. Come back up there. I believe the seal comes in from the side you're on.
I agree with you.
My hand. That was my hand. Moving. There's a seal for the bearing, or?
Bearing seal's good, but put a new one in.
Put a new one. It's not worth it.
I don't know which way that thing came.
Has to go.
No, this thing. Let me see which way I found it.
It punches it. No, you're on what you have to.
Right here?
Yeah, but the other one will probably got it.
Good.
I can't put anything on that face anyway. Unless I put a socket around here.
We can try that.
What?
We can try that. This piece that goes on here.
Oh, whatever you figure. I'm going to use a piece of 2-inch PVC pipe here just so we don't mar anything or mark anything on that water pump side. Yeah, we're moving. Okay, so the way this is supposed to work is when the seal fails, it's supposed to seal between the seal on the bearing and the water pump seal and come out this hose here. And we were getting fluid out on the skid pan, and that's where it had to be coming from. Apparently we were also getting some still seeping past that bearing seal, so that's the only reason we can say that antifreeze in that oil. So we'll get it cleaned up here and get ready to put it back together. Scraping with a popsicle stick, that's pretty good. Oh, if I had a plastic razor blade, I could probably go to town over top of this popsicle stick. That's what everybody calls, isn't it? When in the middle of working on something.
Yeah.
But dirty hands. I have no idea. Wouldn't call it easy to do with a gasket remover, but it's better than doing it dry, I'm quite certain. I'm not scraping any aluminum up in the process here, creating a problem. And both gaskets areas up pretty good here. Want to make sure the water pump one's clean. It's a lot easier to do now than later. Alright, so we're going on day 3 here. Total hours into this thing so far, I'd probably put it at between 4 and 5 man hours. A lot of that was scraping the gasket and things like that. The disassembly actually went pretty quick. In true fashion, like any project, we got her all done up there and cleaned up yesterday. And first piece I needed to put back together there ended up not having from Yamaha. I don't know whether I forgot to order that part or they forgot to put it on their parts list and order it themselves or what. But luckily for me, they had 3 in stock, so make sure to grab 2. Of course, you know, time crunch. Trying to get this thing going. We got a poker rally to run here. I'm leaving tonight for it, so gotta get this put together for John, so I'm hauling it out, and hopefully we can be out of here in a few hours. So just sort of keeping track of time. We got between 4 and 5 hours into it so far. It'll be a little tedious putting the seals in on it, and once that's done, it should pop back together pretty quick. So let's do her. Well, I started going at it there and forgot the camera wasn't on. Basically all you missed was tapping this oil seal in. Brought it in from the back side with the socket, tapping it so it's flush on the front here. I've been reading the print off here. I printed 4 pages off here to get me going. And says to do that oil seal first, and then there's supposed to be a gap between it and the bearing side, which we definitely do have on the back here. And put a little bit of assembly lube on there just so it's not a dry seal. And we put the impeller shaft in. So it says to do the bearing first, and then the mechanical seal on the front here. Mechanical seal. Where is it? You have the mechanical seal, John? You have the mechanical seal? Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll skip that until he finds he's trying to find a socket to set it in with. In the meantime, I'm going to talk about these bearings. I believe it's probably an updated bearing. I was looking at the old one here, and it's got a little bit of play to it. It's NSK, made in Indonesia. And the new one from Yamaha here, it's right out of the Yamaha box. It is Koyo out of Japan. So I don't know if they just sourced a different maker to save $1, or if they found a problem and it's an updated design, or what the deal is there, but it's definitely a different brand. So that's at least somewhat refreshing to see that maybe this won't happen again. If that's the case, hopefully, knock on wood. The other X4, it's got the water pump in there. It's got a lot more kilometers on it than this one, and we haven't had a problem with it yet. And the only thing I can see different is it's a year before, so maybe different part or product number again. So anywho, as soon as I get that seal, we'll taparoo it in here and put the bearing in the back and get the impeller ready to go. You can see this one here doesn't have any of those grooves on it like the other one did. So. And the other part of the mechanical seal will go on that way. I believe that's a ceramic seat base on it. So. Anyway, I'll leave that stuff bagged until we're ready. Well, I guess here we go. This is for all the money. If we can't get this thing in there, get it started, and use a small hammer. And get it started and get it somewhat seated, and then we can tap it in after a little bit of time if we need. Nothing nerve-wracking other than trying to get something put together when you're in a bit of a rush and you're trying to make sure it goes smooth and you don't have any extra spare parts, and if you need parts, they're weeks away. Bad. Swap around here is bad. Got a ways to go here though. Set it the rest of the way with the punch. I think I'm hitting the lift there now. Well, it changed pitch, so that means we're all the way down. This is the old one with the ridge on it. That's the way the seal faced there. I believe that to be a ceramic base on it. So that's the way the new seal's going in on this one. It says not to oil the ceramic mechanical seal parts. That's ready, that's there. We've got to do the bearing now. Now I'm kind of confused why it says to do that next, but instead of before. I'm sure they've got some reason though.
Yeah, just hit some snug in.
I don't think it's a tap in.
Oh, yeah, it'll be tapping.
Should have done it before. Going off their list of.
There's a piece of plastic.
That's what I was going to ask you. What PVC I had the other day? So, what did I learn? Don't follow the steps.
Gonna hold it from the side and then you can tap from that side.
I'm just gonna brace it up here on top. Outside, that should work. Better?
Yeah. This side I think you need to do. Tap on. Bottom drum.
No, it's moving. That sounds bottomed out.
Feels good.
Yeah, feel that one. I don't know where the bearing went because it's a different part number. This one's a coil. That's a. I can't think of, maybe they upgraded something along the way. Using your mechanical seal installer, we don't have. A water pump seal installer.
I pushed it in and that was it.
The middle driven, hang on. Middle driven shaft bearing. Before installing the mechanical seal, apply tap water or coolant to the outer surface. Okay. Impeller side. Twist the impeller, put some water on it like it said on that ceramic seal there. Get this thing ready to go and push it through. Definitely got some spring tension. Snap it. What did it say? Be sure the circlip sharp edge corner is positioned opposite side to the bearing. So sharp edge out. Up. There. Well, that's it for that housing, I guess. Okay, well, I'll put that gasket on the crankcase there next. Make sure to put some gasket maker on where the stator wires come through. And put it all together, make sure the slot's lined up with the oil pump. Okay, I'm going to be using some ultra gray gasket maker here. It's pretty much the 4 OEM kind of stuff there. I don't know if you can see here or not, but there's a upper and lower case split here through there. So I always put a little bit on the two seams here. Got it all cleaned off with brake cleaner a few minutes ago. It doesn't take a whole lot. Just want enough if there's a imperfection between them that it seals them. The alignment dowels. Up the bottom alignment dowels. Everything that so what we'll do is hold them sides in there a bit as well. Position a little better than just relying on the dowels. Okay. And the other thing we're going to do here is right over. Not sure if you guys can see that or not. Right on the electrical connector here, I'll put a bunch of that gasket maker on it too before we put it in right now. And I pick my words maybe a little better and not say a bunch, but some. Okay, so next I'm going to try to align the water pump spline with the drive spline for it. And then guide it on with the stator inside the other piece there. And the problem with this is it had a lot of magnetic pull when I pulled it apart, so I'm assuming I'm going to have the same pull here putting it back together. So just don't be surprised if you're doing one on yours and you have that. Yeah, it's pulling already. Oh. Right there. Got it locked in on there. Case jumped in. certain bolts. All of these ones are the same size. To get them in, we'll snug them all down by hand and then torque them. I believe it's 7.4 foot-pounds. They're the other ones in a opposite pattern. I'm pretty sure I should be torquing that water pump down with it too, because there's 3 bolts for that water pump that hold it together. Now we're putting the water pump cover back on here with the O-ring. A little bit of silicone just to hold it back in. And that's the part that never showed up, so we're going to reuse this one. Seems to be in okay shape. Hoping it works the way it should that way. And get it started, and then we'll torque it all down here. And remember where these bolts came from. There's 1 short, 3 long, and 1 medium. So medium is this one here, short is this one here, and these 3 are the long ones. And these 3 here actually hold the crankcase in as well, so that's why I want to make sure they're all torqued down together. And after we get these hoses all hooked back up on here, wiring connected, fuel tank dropped in here, we're going to go and fire it up and just make sure nothing's leaking. If this O-ring's leaking here, then I'll either have to pull it apart and put some silicone on it to make it for the weekend, or let her sit, one of the two. It's only been on order for weeks and weeks. Alright, we'll get these wiring connectors done up here, tie her up back together next. We're going behind the fuel tank. Well, of course, those of you that know my channel have been following along. Use this grease on my electrical connections on just about everything there. A little dab, waterproofs it. So, a lot of my other projects I've been putting it on, using it. A little dab will do you. Keeps the water and crap out of there. Stuff's dirt cheap in the grand scheme of things. Okay, those 2 are on. Just for now, we'll pull the plug out. Put this one on, tighten it down, and then we'll cut the chunk out of the hose after. Okay, what we're going to do here, this is the one I did on mine. Went and put the block heater in there. It's a 0 start. Don't know what the number is off the top of my head unless it's right on here. Bought them both at the same time, just never gotten around to this one here. Model 100D, 375 watt. Yeah, I don't have the number here. See if I can find it up and post it in the comments there. But what I did is ended up cutting in up on the hose up here fairly tight for heating the block, because I don't know about everybody else's. Mine didn't want to start in the cold very good. And then I ran the power cord out the side there. So we'll cut this one in here, and perfect time while there's no antifreeze, and get it going. Okay, so what I've got it done here now for this block heater, we got it marked out. It's going to fit back in here, just like the other one. Just a little bit of a gap between the aluminum, and face it back into the engine compartment here. So we're going to put it up here, keep the water jacket up, and the one I have working right now works really well, so we'll do the same thing. Got it marked, we'll just cut into the hose. Cut out the chunk where the heater goes. Okay, I found my slightly smaller hose clamps here. We'll go with them instead of the ones that it came with. Can't get these on. When I did my first one there, I made sure I set the angle and everything and nothing contacted with the plastic. So we're just gonna pretty much copy what I did in my pictures there for this one. For now, I'm just going to leave the cord up top here so I get the fuel tank in, as it'll run over top of that, over to the side plastic after. I think we're ready to put some plugs in and start filling it with fluids. Alright, I got the drain plugs put back in for the 3 on the oil and the 1 for the antifreeze there. I'm going to start popping the fuel tank in here, and I believe John's going to start mixing some antifreeze up and putting her in. Always easier if it's not a full tank of fuel. Okay, put this last one in here, the tank hold down, tighten them down. Alright, so looking around here, I don't see any leaks other than where I popped the bolt over there to bleed it off. Got a little steam coming from that. I do not see any antifreeze leaks on the water pump side of things, and I do not see any oil leaks off the housing. And best of all, I do not see any antifreeze in that hose. Just a clear hose down there now. You can see, ran it to the back so it drips out. And if it does leak, you can see it instead of wondering where this antifreeze is on your skid pan that you don't see because it just mixes in with all the dirt and everything else. So, I guess we'll button her up here. So, unfortunately, the camera battery died there putting it back together. But it was pretty much reverse order of how it came apart. And tear back into it once there, got done down to the end there. And I was cleaning up some garbage on the ground and picked up some stuff, and underneath there is a chunk of rubber, and it was off the bracket for the fuel tank mount. So I had to rip the front seat out again and, you know, do all the fun stuff. Tear out, put it all back in. Took me another, I don't know, 20 minutes. So, anyway, it's all back together. No extra parts. We're actually missing one push pin, but so not a big deal. Anywho, we're gonna fire it up and get it out of here now and get her loaded. Well guys, there you have it, it's fixed and we're loaded up and heading out to the poker rally. So one thing I do want to say though is with these side-by-sides, they're pretty big heavy machines, and a lot of times the ramps that you can buy for loading these things really aren't up to the task. Like, we've broken a lot of aluminum ones just repetitively loading quads on and off, on and off, on and off. So get yourself a good set of ramps, especially if you have a high trailer like this, or you're loading into the back of a truck. The longer your ramp, the more sturdy, or not sturdy, the more or less of an angle you're going to have going up there, so it's a little bit safer. You don't have to pin the gas and then fly off it when you level out. And number two, if you are getting some decent ramps, these ones here I actually bought at garage sale. I'll show you them. Bought them at a garage sale, and bought them for less than I could buy the steel to build them. But you see how they're hooked in on the rail here. You definitely want to make sure you have a way so they don't slide out. I've witnessed a lot of ramps fly out from underneath people. They get up there, they give it a little more gas, and one of the ramps shoots out, or both shoot off, and down they go. So kind of call that a public service announcement, I guess. So do that, or get some with chains on them, something like that, and make sure they're rated for what you're loading. So if you like what you saw, there's probably going to be more repairs on these things over the years. Mods, upgrades, repairs. John wants a rack built on the back there and some other stuff. Swing out tailgate like I put on mine. So stay tuned. Thanks for watching. If you wouldn't mind liking, subscribing to see more of it. Alright, have a great day. Out here at the poker rally, and things are just starting off. People are rolling in and getting lots of poker hands and paying their fees. You can see them just coming down the road there out of town, out of Nordacre. Just filing in. Looking like the weather is going to be pretty crappy today. It's been spitting on and off. We had one heck of a rain and hailstorm last night there, but it doesn't seem to be deterring anybody.